and gentlemen, joining us now, we've actually had a run of a lot of baseball talent here lately, and I don't know if I want to say this guy's a baseball talent. He might be better in the booth now on the mic. I don't know. Depends on your perspective, but we got a couple interesting questions to ask him because he might be witness of something that no other man has witnessed before. So either way, we're bringing longtime MLB great. I think he's a five-time All-Star.
That's right.
All right, yeah. So Paul O'Neill joins the show. Paul, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Man, we're doing all right. It's a little humid, finally feels like summertime a little bit. So hopefully, you're staying cool wherever you're at. But man, we appreciate you giving us a short amount of time today because we know it's baseball season. And even though you're not playing anymore, remind everybody what keeps you so busy right now.
Well, I work with the YES Broadcasting System, which is the Yankee network, and I do their color. I do most of the games. It's a really weird time in life. Everybody knows that. So at this point, still doing it virtually with the people in the stadium. So, calling a game from home at the end of the day, when you walk downstairs is great, but not feeling the fans and feeling the emotion of the game, it's been very weird.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, is there a timeline when you're going to be able to head back to Yankee Stadium, or is it just up in the air still?
Well, it's up in the air, but I think there is a timeline of the All-Star break. I think they want the talent to be back in the stadium. They continue to add more people in. It is getting much more normal with fans in the stadium, full spring training. I mean, it feels like baseball season is here again. So, I would expect by the All-Star break that everybody will be back in the stadium.
I would take your time because they just opened up all the fans back to these NBA playoff games. And in New York specifically, they got a little boisterous there with the opposing team. Now, the good thing is when you're home, you ain't got to worry about that. But maybe let them calm down there for a few weeks and then go back.
You know what? It was fun. I did watch a little of Knicks last night, and just to see the fans in the stands again, it feels like real sports, and that's neat. And I just called some games down in Texas where they had 100% occupancy of the stands too. So I don't know that the fans realize how much the players feed off the excitement of the fans and the people being there. When you dream about playing Major League Baseball in these big stadiums, you dream about playing in front of fans. You don't dream about just walking in and playing in an empty stadium. So it feels much more normal, much more natural with people in the stands, kids in the stands. That's what makes baseball baseball.
So let's keep with one last question about the broadcast booth. You as a player, now you're in the broadcast booth. Was it an easy transition for you? And if not, what was something you may have struggled with initially?
Well, I mean, when you're a baseball player, sure, you can look out in the field and explain certain plays, but, for a while, you don't know where to look. You don't know what camera's on. You don't know what's going on. But I would say the first 2 or 3 years was very strange for me because basically you still feel like you can still go out and do the things that are necessary to play a baseball game. And now you're so far away from the game. I mean, my last game was Game 7 of the 2001 World Series. So you're so far away from the game that you're almost watching it from a fan's perspective. You're explaining what's going on and things like that. But it's much more enjoyable in the booth now than immediately after the game, because right when you get out of the game, you're like, did I make a mistake? Should I still be out on the field?
I play with these guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so one question I thought this was nuts. So you're the only player in Major League history that's been involved in 3 perfect games. You had Browning in '88. We actually had him on our show last year. And you had, I believe it was Boomer in '98, and then David Cone in '99.
Right. Yeah, that a lot of people bring that up, and to me, the only thing it means is I was on good teams with good pitching. I mean, unless you make the diving play, to save the perfect game. But I was fortunate enough to make a play in David Cone's game, and I was fortunate enough in David Wells' perfect game to catch the last out. Tom Browning in Cincinnati, but it is a weird thing that it's never happened. But again, I was very fortunate to be part of really good teams with good pitching.
Now, you gave that ball to him, right?
It's funny. I came in with the ball with Boomer, and I said, I threw that ball in the stands, and he grabbed me. I'm like, I'm just kidding.
Oh, wow. So we have a ton of Reds following because we're right here in Charleston, West Virginia. So we're about 3 hours from Cincinnati. I was actually just there this past weekend. But can you give us a little bit of insight to that 1990 season? Because the A's, you played them, you swept them. They were actually the huge favorite, probably one of the biggest upsets in World Series history. And y'all just come in and whip that ass and swept them.
I got that Wheaties box still.
It was strange because we had just come through the playoffs and beating the Pittsburgh Pirates that's back when you only had one playoff before you went to the World Series. So we had an unbelievable playoff against a really good Pirates team. And then, all right, now we're in the World Series. And you're right, we were playing the big bad Oakland A's. Mark McGuire and Canseco and Harold Baines. And, it went on. And we were huge underdogs. And it all changed the first inning of the first game when Eric Davis hit a home run off Dave Stewart. And all of a sudden you realize, we can beat these guys. And then we kind of stole game 2. And then, a lot of people don't realize it because when you sweep somebody on paper, it looks like a total blowout. But we would have had big time issues if we didn't close that series out on game 4 because Eric Davis dove for a ball, our best player, and he was done. He lacerated a kidney, so he would have been out of game 5. Billy Hatcher, our hottest hitter, had hurt his hand. It got hit in the hand. So, we were going to be minus 2 of our best players if we didn't close that game out in game 4. But, when you look back at Cincinnati Reds baseball, you're still waiting back to get back to the World Series with these teams. And still people talk about the 90s. And sure, we had great players. I mean, Barry Larkin's a Hall of Famer. You had Chris Sable at third base. Eric Davis was a great player in center field. But, you're still waiting for that. I grew up in Ohio. So you're still waiting for that period of time like I grew up with the Big Red Machine where, you were going to the playoffs in the World Series every single year. And that's what has been fun with the Yankees and in New York because that's what they expect. But it's a long time waiting for the Reds right now. And, I wish them the best, obviously.
I'm really glad you brought that up. Thanks a lot, Paul. I appreciate that.
Well, you know what? Truth sometimes doesn't hurt. But you know what? They got off to a good start. It just seems like they figure out where they are and they can't hold on. But, the Castellinis who own the team are very, very interested in trying to make this team win. And sooner or later, mark my word, they'll be back. It's just might be later than sooner, but we'll see.
I'm just going to sit here and enjoy it while I can. But one day we'll be back.
All right.
And this past weekend, as a Braves fan, I was in Cincinnati and saw the Reds Hall of Fame. And as just a baseball fan, it's a first-class exhibit because three levels, all that history in Cincinnati. I mean, you get goosebumps just as a baseball fan just walking in there. And I had to get a Big Red Machine to put on the studio wall back there, of course.
You know what? Cincinnati was a very cool organization for me to grow up in. I mean, the traditional organization going through the minor leagues. And, when I got called up in 1985, I mean, you still had Pete Rose was the manager and Ken Griffey played and Tony Perez and Concepcion were still there. So, the names go on. I mean, there is a lot of history in baseball in Cincinnati. And, they're dying to get back to the fans I'm talking about, are dying to get back to those days where, you can root for your team in the World Series.
All right, so you ended up going to the Yankees, and tell us a little bit about the differences in the organizations, what the culture was like for both teams, and you're obviously still a Yankee really now. So what is it about that organization being on the inside that brought you in so much?
Well, I mean, when I was traded, I was upset. I was born and raised in Ohio, so sure I was upset because when you're traded, you're kind of in the back of your mind thinking I'm not good enough to play here, so they sent you somewhere else. So. When I was traded over there, I went at the absolutely perfect time. The Yankees hadn't won in a while. We were just turning it around as a team. I didn't realize, the traditions and the culture of the New York Yankees. And it's not just have a good season. It's win the World Series or you didn't have a good season. And, from my first spring training, meeting the likes of Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, Whitey Ford. You talk about goosebumps. I mean, these are names that are just synonymous with the history of baseball. So being part of that, I'll never forget. Being part of 4 world championships, I'll never forget. it's like two separate careers. You know, I went from Cincinnati, and I love the city. I love the team. I love winning. But when I went to New York, I realized what winning and how important it is, and how many people are involved in the winning, and the millions and millions of people that are Yankee fans. It doesn't matter if you're at home or if you're in a stadium on the road. There's always Yankee fans, and it's just the way it is. And like I said, you brought up the term culture. There is a culture there, and Mr. Steinbrenner, when he was owner of the team when I was there, he did everything he possibly could to allow you to win, but he expected you to win too. And he always said, New York deserves a winner. And, that always stuck with me, because the people there live and die every single day on if the Yankees win or lose.
What I found interesting too, we kind of talked offline, as a Braves fan, you shattered my childhood dreams, several times, keeping us at one. So at least we're not the Buffalo Bills, but that Yankees team, people want to like hate them and act like they were the evil empire. But that 90s team, and leading up to when you retired, you all had a ton of role players, and you guys just clicked. It wasn't like, I felt like in the Yankees in the early 2000s was more like, let's go out and buy superstars at spots. Mm-hmm. But your all's team, you had like Charlie Hayes, Scott Brocious, people like that. They were good role players, and you all blended well.
Yeah, I mean, that camaraderie and that teams, when I look back, it meant so much. And, you look at some of the stars that we had. You look at Derek Jeter, you look at Mariano Rivera, Andy Pettitte, Jorge Posada. None of those were free agents. Those were all part of the Yankee organization. I mean, they went out and signed some free agents, and it seemed like there for a while, everybody they brought in was a perfect fit. But I tell you what, and Mr. Steinbrenner paid extra money to keep that team together. And that was another thing that I really appreciated. You've seen it over the years in other sports where teams will win and then they disassemble the team and it's gone. But he kept those teams together year after year and gave us a chance to win. And, as you're going through it and you're winning, we won 4 out of 5 years. You almost take it for granted that this is what. But now when you look back, you understand how special that time was.
So as you moved into broadcasting, is there anybody that you modeled your kind of game after now? Like, is there anybody that you studied film on and tried to like get your chops ready to emulate that? Or did you just kind of come up with your own process?
Really. I think you try to be who you are. I'm not the guy that takes notes and numbers and analytics and all this stuff into the stadium. I mean, baseball to me is something to be enjoyed. And if I can give some thoughts on, what's going through a player's mind or something, great. But, I don't even keep a scorebook, and they always give me a lot of grief about that. I watch the game. I try to remember what happens. But, when I look back at being a child, I mean, it was all about, Keith Jackson and Kurt Gowdy and, Jim Cott. And, those were the guys that you would listen on TV. So I guess those are the guys you kind of emulate. But, I try to just have as much fun as the fans would watching the game. I got pretty good seats.
So were you a Seinfeld fan before you were on the show?
I didn't know much about the show. And believe it or not, my mom and dad watched the show. And when I was asked to do it, I thought, well, you know what? Okay. And then we were out there doing playing the series in Anaheim. And they actually picked me up, went and shot the scene. I went and had a game that night. So, and then when I ended up watching the show, I became one of the biggest fans of the show. I mean, it's the greatest show ever. And to be part of it, again, these are the things that only happen if you play for the Yankees. And believe me, it's still fun today when you're flipping through the channel and like, oh, that's the episode I'm on. But a lot of people come out and the fathers will say, hey, you know what? I remember this play you made in 98, and then the wife will say, oh, yeah, I remember Seinfeld. So they're different angles.
Who did better on Seinfeld, you or Bernie Williams and Jeter whenever Costanza was trying to teach him how to hit home runs?
Yeah, you know what? Bernie and Jeet's always pretty good on camera, so I'll leave that one up to you. But we had a lot to do with that stuff.
That's a very good answer.
Hey, we know you're busy. It's doubleheader. You got a lot on your plate today, but we appreciate you coming out and talking to us for a few minutes. But I have one last question.
All right.
Every kid watching this grew up on blooper tapes, saw the play where you kick it from right field into the infield. So I don't know if anyone's ever did it before or after you. I can't recall it. So what was going through your head and how did it even work?
All right, I'm going to leave you with this story, all right? So we're in Philadelphia, extra inning game, 2 outs. Steve Jelps was the runner on second base who runs very well. So base hit to me. We're going through a tough time. Base hit to me. I'm thinking do or die, do or die. I make the play. I didn't make the play. I fumbled it. I fumbled it. I'm thinking the game's over, so I just kicked it. Well, I didn't know that Steve Jelts had slipped going around third base because it was wet that night. And just so happened that the ball went straight and I hit the cutoff man. And this, the funny thing is my daughter she doesn't really remember me playing, but she sees those bloopers all the time every year. So that's what she remembers me as a baseball player too. But, I kicked and punted in high school. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know.
See, there's inside
I was
story.
very lucky the ball went straight because if it had gone sideways, I might not be talking about a career.
So are you more of a toe kick or a side of the foot kick when you do
No,
that?
I was a toe guy. I had the flat front foot like George Blanda, man. Right on.
Nice.
Head on.
Man, that's tough with a baseball. I'm not going to lie. That got me like holding my piggies here. I don't know.
Like I said, I think I was very lucky that night.
All right, Paul. Well, hey, we know you're a extremely busy guy. And again, from bottom of our heart, we appreciate you just giving us a few minutes, man. It was just fun to hear a couple of those stories. And I'll tell you, I did like your scene with Kramer a little better than, Costanza hitting the long ball. So I'll give you that. Right. And I appreciate your time in Cincinnati. Love it. You're still giving back to the game, even though it's with the Evil Empire, but we'll forgive you for that, man. But hey, thanks so much for coming on, brother.
All right. You guys be well, man. It was fun talking to you.
Hey, thank you so much, Paul. Hey, first and foremost, we really appreciate it. So it sounds like you have a pretty busy day actually right now. Is that accurate to say?
Well, baseball season is busy, and obviously with the rain out yesterday and a doubleheader today, baseball season is very busy right now. Yes, you're right.
All right, we won't take up too much of your time. I'll just do a quick intro. We just got a few questions for you. We're huge baseball fans, and I'm not a Yankees fan, but I am a Reds fan. So I remember Paul O'Neill wearing the Reds hat.
Yeah,
once upon a time.
But, I remember him breaking my heart all those times.
I'm very sorry about that Atlanta hat you got on.
Yeah, it hurts, man.